Hi, I'm Alex Stutchbury and welcome to ARTClass, a series of videos teaching you the key skills needed to create great art. Today I'm going to teach you how to create a tonal portrait using charcoal, just like the ones behind me. Here's the objective.
And I use charcoal and a rubber to produce a variety of realistic skin textures to make the face look 3D. So can I use tissue to represent smooth skin and midtones, a rubber for the highlights and blemishes, and charcoal to create textures and the darkest shadows.
Now, charcoal can be such an excellent media to use when you're doing portraiture. These are some examples that I've previously done of Nelson Mandela and a young Lewis Hamilton. And you can see on these the successes of not just the smooth skin application that you can create using the dusty properties of charcoal on things like his skin, but also the textures. If you look at some of the marks, the wrinkles, all the little blemishes of a Nelson Mandela picture. So you can create a full textural range as well as getting really harsh, bold, dramatic, contrasting light. In this one, I've covered the background quite dark and it brings a focus onto the highlights on his face. This one is framed with more of a just plain background, which obviously makes the dark elements on his body and his hair and his jacket stand out more.
This is the charcoal process that we're going to be working to today, starting from an outline to applying layers of tone using charcoal and finally completing it with a background. You can see this slide at the end of the video.
Now I'm going to show you the full tonal charcoal process. And this piece is going to be a really special one because it's actually in honour of a man called John, who I had the great pleasure of getting to know in his last few years of his life. He actually had an amazing story and told me loads of amazing anecdotes about his exploits, especially during World War II. He actually had to leave his home country of Poland at the start of the war and was able to run away and join up with the Allied forces as Britain and America fought in Africa and then advanced up through Italy, defeating the Nazi regime and winning World War II. He experienced all that, and then after the war he moved to England, where he led a very fruitful life. In the last few years, like I said, I managed to get to know him and listen to some of these amazing stories. And sadly, he passed away very recently, so this is in honour of John Yudchenko.
So once you've got your outline of the face drawn, go over all the main lines again, but this time using some charcoal. Turn the charcoal as you apply so it doesn't go too blunt and so you can keep the lines quite fine, but don't draw really bold lines on light areas, only on the darkest ones that you can then smudge away from.
When spraying your work, you must make sure you do it in a well ventilated area because actually it can be very harmful if you breathe it in. Hold it about a foot away, spray up and down once, wave it and walk away.
Now we can start to apply the tones on. Start in a dark area first and apply the darkest shading just using some hatching and then smudge that out away with a tissue. Build up little layers and little bits at a time, but start in those darkest parts each time so you can smudge out from those areas. Then if you hatch the charcoal on, you won't notice it because you're going to be covering up those little slight hatch lines later when you're smudging darker layers upon these first sets. Build it up as you go and try not to lean on the page because you don't want to make any unnecessary smudging.
Always smudge in a circular motion so you don't leave streaks, and if you want to be quite precise, wrap your finger in one little area so you can get the little details without smudging everything by mistake.
Look at all the special characteristics that the face has, because everyone's face is different. They all have eyes, nose and a mouth, but you need to look at all the small differences, the shapes of the eye sockets, how big or small the nose and the mouth is, how the chin hangs below the jawline. Look at all those little subtle differences and apply them on. John had amazing character to his face, and because of his age he also has quite a lot of wrinkles and creases around his eyes and on his forehead, so those little bits need to be applied 2 or 3 times to get that definition and for the tonal range to really stand out against the lighter areas on things like his cheeks or bridge of his nose. So you keep applying those layers on and smudging in as you go. Work in several areas at once so you can then judge how light or dark other bits need to be. Often it's quite dark on the neck and in the eye sockets compared to other areas of the face. Do not outline the head, use the opposite tone in the background to make it stand out. So you can see on this left hand side of the picture, his hair was catching the light. So actually I want to make the background really dark behind it, which will make the highlighted area of the hair and forehead stand out. Whereas I will fade it to a lighter tone on the right hand side because his ear is darker, and so I don't want it to clash with a dark background. So you can vary how light or dark the background is in the same way that you can also change his clothing to lighten it or darken it so it doesn't clash with his neck and arm. Remember at the very end to rub out all the highlighted areas once more in case you smudged over them by mistake, and then spray to seal it all onto the page and fix it down firmly.
So there you go, my tonal charcoal portrait in loving memory of John. Now, it's a tricky one to get used to first, the charcoal technique, but actually it's such a successful media to use if you're doing something like a portrait because of that high, full contrast and tonal range that you can generate, and also because of the powdery texture, so you can create that smooth, soft blending for things like the skin. Pause the end of the video so you can have a look at this slide. It goes through all of those stages that I've spelled out during this video, and give it a shot. I look forward to seeing how you get on. My name's Alex Stutchbury. Goodbye.